Ronald Acuña Jr. came back in a big way this past weekend, but it still wasn't enough for the Atlanta Braves to win a series over the Padres. Can anything save this team? We'll talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at shorts.ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on social media or on X, and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Stop real quick, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you have, hit that thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below, as it helps out the show a ton on YouTube when you do that. And if you're listening on the audio version, as most of our listeners still are, I appreciate you as well. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. And unfortunately, it's going to be another frustrating episode today as these Atlanta Braves lose a tough series to the San Diego Padres. There'll be some good in there as well. We're going to celebrate Ronald Acuña Jr. No matter what this team does, Ronald is back, and he is a joy to watch. And what a big weekend that it was for him. So we'll get into that, the pitching, the offense, and what's next for this Atlanta Braves team. We'll discuss all that on today's episode. Let's start with the results. The Braves drop the series to the Padres, lose on a tough one on Friday night. Great pitch game by Chris Sale, which we'll get into later. Come back on Saturday. Amazing. 7-1 win. Easy peasy win, exactly what the Braves needed. And then you come back on Sunday, you got to lead, go into the second half of the game, and you blow it, and you ultimately lose it and lose the series. And you look at the record now for the Atlanta Braves. They're 25-27, 8.5 games back of the NL East, 4.5 games back of the wild card spot. And to be completely honest with you, that's the first time I've looked at the standings this season. I mean, I'm sure I've seen them here or there. They obviously scroll across the timeline on the bottom of the screen during baseball games, but it's the first time I've really, pulled up a standing and saw where the Braves were. And even now I don't care, but it's bringing up a talking point, because I am amazed at the amount of people, and I kind of played on this in my cold open a little bit, but I'm amazed at the amount of people that want to say that this team is done, that the season is over. And I get it. Some of that is hyperbole and everybody kind of reacting to another tough series loss. How quickly do we forget that this is a 162 game season? And look, to the credit of some of those people who feel that way, it was a rough 2024, and now it's kind of bleeding over into a bit of a rough 2025. So I kind of understand it to that degree. It's kind of a carryover from 2024, which, by the way, was a team that still won 89 games. But the amount of people in my mentions right now that are just saying the Braves are done, that the season is over, this team is bad, this team can't win, it's a 162 game season. And maybe you're right, and you want to go ahead and take your victory lap on that. Kudos to you. Go ahead. And certainly this team isn't playing great right now. I'm not trying to defend that. They let another series get away that was very winnable. They are not playing winning baseball at this moment. And yet they still find themselves in a pretty good spot historically. Because let's look, last year, the Mets were 22-30 at this point last year, and they come back and win 90 games. You look at the Phillies 2 years ago, they were 25-28 at this point. And then look at the Braves themselves in 2022, they were 2 games under 500 at this point. Same way that the Braves are now, and they went on to win 101 games. And then obviously 2021, they were 2 games back on May 30th, and they came back to only won 88 games that year, but came back to win the World Series. Season is far from over, and I think this team's in a much better place than a lot of those teams, because all the pieces are right there. They just got to play consistently, and they're not doing that, and maybe they won't. And like I said, maybe you're right. Maybe all of you who want to say that this is over, people in the comments saying it's a waste of money, watching this team. I don't enjoy watching them lose, even if Acuña delivers. And that's certainly understandable, but the season's far from over. There is still a ton of time. There's still a ton of talent. And as I've tried to remind you, the schedule is much easier in the second half. Now, look, you got to be able to beat these teams And right now they just can't beat the Padres. Padres have their number. But all of these, it's not like they're getting, blown off the field by a lot of these teams. You go back to that 7-game losing streak to begin the year against the Padres and Dodgers. Pretty much all of those games were winnable. They were close ball games. You look at all the one-run losses they've had. They've been in all these games. They're just not making that big play. They're not getting that big hit consistently enough. Yet, we're not even 2 months through the season. So I get it. It's part of being a fan. It's a knee-jerk reaction and somewhat small sample size for a season that's played over 5-6 months for that very reason. And I just still believe that this Braves team is going to be very good and win a lot of ball games. And I get it, Matt. Yes, good teams find a way to win the close games. They don't do that. I get it. Right now, they're not doing it. You know what? They also weren't doing it at this point in 2021. They also weren't doing it at this point in 2022. All I'm saying is that can change over 162. They're not getting those clutch hits now. They're not making those clutch plays right now, but they can. They're capable of it. They've done it in the past. And so, again, I understand your frustration right now with this team, but to just say that they can't make these plays later, they can't turn things around. The Angels just had a 7 or 8 game win streak that included a sweep over the Dodgers. If that can happen, anything can happen. And then, oh, by the way, they lose the series to the Marlins. So that's just baseball sometimes. But again, as fan bases are not rational, only emotional. And that's part of the fun of being a fan. So again, I'm not trying to tell you how to be a fan. I just think I think we have very short memories as fans. I just gave you all the examples. That was just in the NL East. Justin Toscana of the AJC posted how last year 3 teams had a losing record at Memorial Day that made the postseason. So it's very much possible. I still believe this team is very talented and capable, but I get your frustrations. And again, to Matt Carter's point a minute ago, they're not making the big plays right now. They're not doing the little things that winning teams do, but it's still just May 25th. We're not even through the second month of the season. There's plenty of time, and I believe that they will turn it around. And to get back on a happier note, I believe Ronald Acuña Jr. will be a big part of that. And he tried his best this past weekend. The very first pitch he saw of this season coming back from injury was gone. Hardest hit ball of the year by a Braves player. I mean, if that didn't give you chills, I don't know. I was watching it with family, typically get together with family on Friday night. We're all in the kitchen together watching it, and he hits it. And it was emotional. I mean, it's, again, we talk about fan bases. They're not rational. They're only emotional. It was emotional. There was a feeling with that only sports can bring. And it was just really fun to see a guy that, I call him a guy, he's still a kid, but a kid that just loves playing the sport. And it's been taken away from him twice, and really 3 times, because 2022, it just wasn't him. And he, already looks much better coming. He looks better than he did at the beginning of last year, where he only hit 4 home runs before getting injured. He already has 2. He homered in each of the first 2 games. He doubled on Sunday. I thought it was funny with CJ and Brandon talking about on the broadcast that it's just a double, and you're kind of disappointed. We've already been spoiled with Ronald Acuña Jr. and what he's done. But that was my thought too. Is that ball going to get out? And then, no, it's just a double. But that's just the excitement that Ronald Acuña Jr. gets. And here's another part of this, and maybe I'm looking far too much into it. But in the 1-1 game, the Braves have runners on second and third with 1 out. Nick Allen up there. He gets ahead 3-1. And Ronald Acuña Jr. is on deck. What do you think Nick Allen's about to get? He's getting a middle fastball. There's no way that Dylan Cease is going to risk throwing anything else and walking Nick Allen to load the bases for Ronald. And that's exactly what he gets. A middle fastball, and Nick Allen barrels it up enough to get it to center field to score the runner from third. That's an assist to Ronald. Just his presence, being on deck, set that up for Nick Allen. He had to know, I'm getting a middle fastball. I just need to be on time with it, and I need to hit it far enough to score this run. And that's exactly what happened. And then he's up to the plate with a runner on third and 2 outs, and Ronald is up there. And what are you going to get? I'm not throwing Ronald a first pitch fastball. He gets a slider, and where is it? It's in the dirt into the backstop, and it scores another run. So again, just the presence of Ronald being there, leading, I think, to a couple runs for the Atlanta Braves. He can just be so impactful in many ways. And defensively too, we saw him throw out a runner at second base. He almost threw out Manny Machado at home. It was a ball that was thrown 104.9 miles per hour. That's tied for the second hardest throw by an outfielder this year by O'Neal Cruz, who also broke his own record for the hardest hit ball ever in the StatCast era. But he's doing it on both sides. The only thing he's not doing, and it showed in this game, is he's still, he's 3 games in. He's not running right now, and it's understandable. I assumed that was going to be the case early on, that he's not really going to have that green light, and they're going to kind of ease him back into running, because he led off this game with a walk for the Braves in the bottom of the first, and he stood there. And there really was no threat of him going. And then, unfortunately, Drake Baldwin, who had a good at-bat, hits into a double play. And that is easily a situation. If Ronald is back to himself, he is stealing in that spot. You're going to give me a free pass, I'm going to try to make you pay for it and steal a base. And if he does do that and everything else plays out the same way, it's a run. But he's just not. I think, honestly, we're going to see him stealing much right now to begin with. We didn't see him do it at the minor league level. Again, there was really no threat of him doing it the couple of times he was on first base in this series. So I think we'll have to be a little bit patient with that part of it, but everything else was there. The power was there. The arm was there in the outfield. Even didn't really have to see him make any, crazy running plays in the outfield. There were a couple of times he had to chase after some balls, one in particular on Friday where he had to run down a ball on the foul, kind of going into foul territory down the first baseline. And he was able to do that, with ease. So still, it's a guy that's working his way back. They're going to be cautious with him, but it was exciting. And again, I know people in the comment section said that they still can't watch this team even with Acuña. That's not me. That to me makes it far easier watching this team right now, knowing when's Acuña coming up to bat. You can't miss it. I'm pausing the TV if I think Acuña is coming up and I got to go do something, because I'm not missing an at bat from Ronald. And it's just so exciting having him back, the type of energy that he brings. And I do think that his energy will help and get this team rolling at some point, and certainly his production will too. But it's just so much fun having Ronald Acuña Jr. back in this lineup. Unfortunately, at least on Friday and Sunday, the rest of the offense wasn't able to do much. We'll talk about that next, as well as the pitching staff, where they delivered. We'll get into all of that here next. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine your live props into bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And like I said, the NBA playoffs are going on right now, but if you're like me, you're fully into the Major League Baseball season. They have World Series odds over there. Braves not looking too hot at the moment. They have awards, winners. Maybe you get a comeback player of the season award for Ronald Acuña Jr. Obviously, Drake Baldwin up there in the Rookie of the Year award. You can see all of those odds over at FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you check out FanDuel.com/PlaySafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you check out the guys over at Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. They'll get you caught up with everything happening around Major League Baseball and maybe some other stuff. You want to tune out the Braves for a moment, you go check out everything else that's happening. All right, let's dive into the offense, and then we'll get into the pitching staff, which was good. A couple of mistakes by the bullpen, but overall, the pitching was really good on the weekend, certainly good enough to win this series. But offensively, just not enough on Friday. And look, a well-pitched game by Nick Pivetta, who's having an amazing season, but you wasted another Chris Sale start, and you got to find a way. Ronald homers to start the game for you. First pitch he sees in the bottom of the first, and you got to run, and you score nothing else after that the rest of the way. I don't care how good the other pitcher is. You got to find a way to scratch across another run or two. Offense was great on Saturday. That's how it should look. And I get it. It's a bullpen game, but everybody had a hit. Everybody contributed in some way. That's how it needs to look for this offense. And then on Sunday, I thought they did a great job early on against Dylan Cease. I thought they really battled, especially there in that fifth inning, knocked Dylan Cease out of the game. And then it's just like they folded after that. And you never really saw them put much pressure on after that fifth inning. And it's just unfortunate. It just wasn't a complete game. Like I said, early on against Dylan Cease, I thought the at-bats were good. You worked out his pitch count and got him out. And then just nothing after that. Individually, Ozzie possibly heating up, 2 doubles and a walk on Sunday, back-to-back games with multiple hits, an 11-game hit streak, which, be honest, you listened to the postcast the other night, neither me nor Lindsay had any idea that he was on any type of hit streak like that. And I think it's because there wasn't much impact on those hits, but that changed on Sunday. I mean, a couple of doubles, one that just missed getting out of there. He also drew a nice walk on Sunday. So perhaps there is something going on with Ozzie here. His average went from 207 to 239. His slug up from 323 to 351. Still not seeing that typical power. Like I said, in this hit streak, a lot of that's just been some weak singles, but on Sunday, some loud doubles. So that's good to see. Hopefully we're going to see the home runs come back for him. He just has 1 home run this month, and that was back on May 3rd. But again, looks like Ozzie might be starting to turn things around. Unfortunately, his struggling partner, Michael Harris, going in the wrong direction. 5 hits in his last 9 games, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 of them coming in that game in Boston where they were walking everybody. He hasn't homered since April 19th. Michael Harris is struggling in a bad way. And we know he's been a slow starter in his young career. And his defense hasn't suffered at all. I mean, that's why he's going to get a longer leash than most people, is because he is saving runs out there in center field. But it is a struggle right now at the plate. And he has to be batting 8th, 9th in the lineup right now until he can get things going. Matt Olson only had 1 hit on the weekend with 5 strikeouts. So hottest hitter on the team coming in, and it can change quickly. And hopefully that's not the case here for Matt Olson, but it was a little bit of a rough weekend. He had the good home run on Saturday, but outside of that, bit of a rough weekend for Matt Olson. And then credit to Brian Snitker. I was very much on the train of putting Eli White in there every day over Alex Verdugo, and I still am. I still think Eli White does more for you, although we'll get into his blunder here in a second. But credit to Brian Snitker. He went with Verdugo, and he had a 5-hit weekend. I don't know how much I trust that, but it worked. At least it worked over the weekend, and it certainly has bought Verdugo a longer leash in that role against righties. He'll obviously sit against lefties, even though Eli White has been better against righties, but Verdugo's been very bad against lefties. So we'll see, should see Eli White some this week. Speaking of Eli White, big mental lapse in the game on Friday. Ozzie, who, like I said, had a good weekend, he gets a hit. Eli White on second base. I don't think he would have scored because the ball was hit pretty hard by Ozzie right to the center fielder, but he takes off running like he's thinking he's got to score and looks up, sees Matt Tuiazasopo with his hands up for the stop sign, and he thinks he's giving him the sign to go back to second, which, look, I've seen people try to get on Tui, and I think it's just part of piling on because he's had some bad sins here lately. That's a stop sign. I get it. You could be pointing at the bag, put up the stop sign with one hand, pointing at the bag with the other. You can certainly do that, but I think it's just a mental lapse from Eli White. I mean, if a coach is wanting you to go back to the bag at that point, he is screaming, he is yelling, he's jumping up and down and pointing towards second base. That's just a huge mental error from Eli White that potentially cost the game on Friday. Ozzie running into an out on Sunday. He had the double off the wall. It scored Riley, and he tried to go to third and was just out easy. And it's just bad base running. And you can't be giving away outs right now with this offense. Anytime you don't want to be giving out free outs on the base pass, but it just seems to be happening a lot for the Braves here. They've got to get the base running under control. And this to me is a separate discussion from caught stealing. Like caught stealing, you're taking a good risk. Usually 65, 70% of the time, although maybe not so much with the Braves, but you should be getting rewarded for that. I'm talking about just running into easy outs, like the sins from Tui where Riley and Verdugo are just nailed at home plate. Like they're not close plays. That's what I'm talking about. Getting caught stealing. Okay. You're taking a good risk there in doing that, but just giving free outs on the base pass, it has to stop. And then the defense, or sorry, I did want to talk about before I get into the pitching and defense. There was one decision on Sunday, and again, maybe in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. But Ozzie gets a leadoff walk to start the 7th inning. You're down by a run, and you have Michael Harris and Nick Allen coming up. I just talked about the struggles with Michael Harris and Nick Allen. You know, he's done a great job at the bottom of the lineup, but you got Ozzie on who has speed, and he tried to run. He tried to run early in that Michael Harris at bat. It was 0-2 pitch to Michael Harris. He popped out to left field, but Ozzie tried to run on that. He doesn't try to run at all on the Nick Allen at bat, and Nick Allen hits into a double play. But my issue is, how do you not – you're down by 1 in the 7th inning, and you got Michael Harris and Nick Allen coming up. How do you not try to put down a bunt to move Ozzie Albies over to at least guarantee that either Ronald or, if they walk Ronald, Drake Baldwin gets an at bat in that spot with the runner on? I don't know. I don't understand that line of thinking, that you don't at least try to make that situation happen. Bunt with either Michael Harris or Nick Allen. Probably Michael Harris, as he's up first. You're not going to bunt with 1 out and a runner on first base. Generally, put on a hit and run. Michael Harris is as bad as he is, and he had a terrible at bat against Dylan Cease with runners on 2nd and 3rd and no outs in this game. He's generally going to put the ball in play. So a hit and run there wouldn't have been a bad idea, which, maybe that's kind of what they did with sending Ozzie, although I don't think that would be the case in an 0-2 count. Or Nick Allen. Nick Allen, somebody that can put the ball in play. Just trying something there, or pinch hit for Nick Allen. That was the decision you could have made too, and you didn't. And again, I thought that was a pretty bad decision. I'm not going to completely grill Brian Snicker for some of the decisions over this weekend. I didn't see too many that really caught my eye, but that was one I couldn't believe. Ozzie, your number 7 hitter, gets on with a leadoff walk. You got Michael Harris coming up who's struggling, and your number 9 hitter, Nick Allen, on deck, and you got Ronald and Drake Baldwin waiting in the wings, and you can at least find a way to get one of those guys up in a run-scoring situation in a 1-run game. That's just bad decision-making, I believe. That's inexcusable decision-making, to not put yourself in a spot where either Ronald or Drake Baldwin gets a shot to hit in a 1-run game and a runner on second. And instead, Nick Allen hits a double play, and you get nothing that inning. That was a terrible decision in my mind. All right, next we'll get into the pitching side of things, where the starting pitching was great. Defense, not so much, at least on Sunday. We'll get into all of that here next. So the starting pitching for the Atlanta Braves over the weekend was good enough to win this series. Chris Sale, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. The only run was on a home run, which Kevin Sheets is just having an unreal season. I've talked about this before. I got to watch him in Birmingham back in the day, and I was blown away. I think I wrote an article about this when I used to cover White Sox prospects. Gavin Sheets just had some unreal power in a place where it's not easy to hit for power. And so I've always believed in that swing, and he's finally having a breakout season. Unfortunately, he's doing a lot of his damage against the Braves, but the home run that he got off Chris Sale was 97 on the black end, and he is strong enough to get the barrel to that baseball and hit it out to left center. Just an unreal swing, but otherwise great outing from Chris Sale. 95 pitches. Suddenly his ERA is down to 3.36, and he's just Chris Sale again. I mean, he looks like Chris Sale. He's given up 2 earned or less in 7 straight starts now. He's struck out 42 in his last 33 and a third innings. He's gone at least 5 2/3 innings over his last 6 starts. It's just, he's gone at least 5 2 in his last 5 and 7 innings in 3 of those. And it's mostly just been the fastball slider lately. Fastball velocity has ticked up, but he's just Chris Sale. And I think that's kind of what we should expect going forward. He looks like the NL Cy Young winner again, and that's great for the Atlanta Braves. Grant Holmes, fantastic, 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts on 94 pitches. He also went mostly fastball slider in this one with 14 curveballs and 8 cutters mixed in. 84.8 mile per hour average X velocity against. That's just a great number. He's getting a ton of weak contact. In his last 8 starts, he's gone at least 5 1/3 innings. He's gone 6 or more in 5 of them, 3 earned or less in 6 of them, 2 earned or less in 5 of them. And in 3 of the last 4 starts, he's only walked 1. And that's been really his biggest issue this season, is just walking too many batters. But only 1 walk in the start on Saturday. Overall for Grant Holmes now, it's a 3.68 ERA, a 4.24 xERA, 1.16 whip, 22.8% strikeout rate, 10.8% walk rate is high, but he's settling in as a very solid 3rd, 4th starter in the rotation. The only question is, how many innings can you get from him? Can you get 150 plus innings from Grant Holmes? But I think he's answered the question of whether or not he can be a successful starting pitcher. And then on Sunday, Spencer Schwellenbach, 7 innings, 7 hits, no walks, 4 runs, 2 of them earned. 11 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 101 pitches, really just the home runs that hurt him in this one. Probably his most dominating outing of the year. He struck out 10 in a game earlier in the season, but he got 20 whiffs and 11 strikeouts against a Padres team that doesn't strike out a lot. Fewest strikeouts in all of baseball coming in. And he was really just blowing the 4-seamer by them for the most part. 11 whiffs and a 41% whiff rate on his 4-seamer. That was 96, 97, 98. And it wasn't a terrible 0-2 pitch to Gavin Sheets, but again, the guy's just really strong, and he kind of threw it down in the wheelhouse for a left-handed hitter where you can just drop the barrel on it. He did hang one to Drake Cronenworth, but there was a pitch earlier in that at bat just below the bottom of the zone. It was technically a ball, but the umpire, which is his first game umpiring at the major league level ever, he had been calling that pitch all game. And the pitch after that, it's a foul tip into Drake Baldwin's glove. He can't hold on to it. And unfortunately, next pitch, he hangs one and Jake Cronenworth doesn't miss it. But that's 7 innings in 3 straight starts now for Spencer Schwellenbach. He's giving you great depth. His last 4 starts have all been really good. He's starting to look like the Spencer Schwellenbach that we all have seen and know that he can be. But unfortunately, the game on Sunday, I did want to mention this because the home run to Gavin Sheets was just a backbreaker in this game, because the Braves have just taken the lead on Dylan Cease. They had just knocked him out of the game. And then you come back out the next inning, and we'll talk about the defense. Big error by Austin Riley to begin that 6th inning. He now has 5 errors in his last 15 games. Snicker blaming it on the field crew after it is just not a great look. But you had all this momentum. I'm watching that game. You know, the Braves work hard in that inning. They push 2 runs across against Dylan Cease. They take a 3-1 lead. Spencer Schwellenbach is rolling. And then you come out, you make the error, and then Spencer Schwellenbach almost picks up his teammate and gets out of it. And then Gavin Sheet, drops the hammer on that slider down and in, and it's a tie ball game. And from that point on, momentum was just zapped. It looked like a completely different game. As I said earlier, talking about the offense, the at-bats I thought were so good and through those first 5 innings. But after that home run from Gavin Sheets, this team felt lifeless. And look, that can happen. That's the momentum swings of a ballgame, and it can all change quickly. Braves could come out on Tuesday against the Phillies. Ronald hits a leadoff home run, and you got that momentum back. But they just never responded to that. And that, go back to things that are worrying me or people who are worried right now, that is worrisome, where you have a bunch of you have the momentum going. You got a 3-1 lead. It's looking like you're going to steal a series win against the Padres after you drop the first game of the series. Things are looking really good. You're going to get back to 500. You get punched in the mouth. They quickly come back and tie it up, and you don't respond to that. That is worrisome to me, that you can't, because it's not like they were losing at that point. You had chances to then take the lead, and you just never responded. But that was such a back-breaking inning right there, because I was feeling good. I'm sitting there watching that game as a Braves fan. I'm thinking, okay, Ronald's back. He's had a good weekend. The Braves just knocked out Dylan Cease. They don't want to use their best bullpen guys right now. And you have the error and you have the home run, and it was just zapped. And from that point on, it was a bad Braves baseball team. That can change. Like I said, you got the off day, and you come back out and you change that momentum on Tuesday if you win. But for this game particular on Sunday, that was just a devastating blow that they never recovered from in that game. For the bullpen on the weekend, Iglesias, he gave up the game losing home run on Friday to Machado. Snicker said he's sticking with him in the closer role. As I talked about in the postcast, that slider, and Snicker said this as much in his post-game interview, it has just not been a consistently good pitch for him this year, and he may have to go away from it for a while. And then the question becomes, okay, well, can he be as effective as a four-seam sinker changeup guy? And I think he can, but also, who else are you putting in that ninth inning right now? Dazel's been good, but he hasn't been as dominant as you would like for somebody who still walks too many batters. Dylan Lee's been good, but he gave up a home run to Machado on Sunday, and he seems to give up these home runs in close games for whatever reason. So I just don't know who you're replacing Iglesias with right now in the bullpen. That goes all the way back to the offseason that you didn't do enough to get another dominant arm for the back end of games, and that's really biting the Atlanta Braves right now. But overall, again, I don't put this series loss on the bullpen by any means. The offense on Friday night not doing enough, the error on Sunday really hurt the Braves in this series and not being able to get it done and win another series that you probably should have, but maybe you shouldn't with the way that the team is playing right now. I did want to mention, I talked about Michael Harris earlier, he's slumping at the plate, but several great sliding catches coming in on baseballs in this series, 2 on Jackson Merrill. It's the only way the Braves could get out Jackson Merrill, who he's just become a Braves killer at this point. So again, still continuing to play great defense. A little bit of news over the weekend. The Braves released Orlando Arcia. So he cleared waivers, but the Braves decided to still release him. And they did pick up Orneas from the Rangers to give them some middle infield depth. So I guess they feel like that's good enough at this point. But we'll talk more about that and other moves on the next episode of Locked On Braves, where we'll also get into the minor spotlight from the past week, all the top highlights from the minor league level, and also talk a little bit about the upcoming MLB draft after my week at the SEC baseball tournament. So all that will be coming your way on Monday night's edition of Locked On Braves. Hope you all have a great Memorial Day. No Braves baseball. Maybe that's a good thing for you. I'm still excited to watch them again with Ronald back, but no Braves baseball on Monday. So hope you all have a great, relaxing Memorial Day. Thanks to everybody for listening to today's episode of Locked On Braves. Really appreciate your support. And as you're on Memorial Day, make sure you think about those veterans who have given their lives for your freedom. And we salute you and thank you for your service. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.